The secret of Little Bighorn hides not in courage, but in a devastating prophecy seen weeks before battle. The Hunkpapa Holy Man foresaw soldiers falling from the sky like dead grasshoppers upside down. Did this powerful spiritual vision transform tribal defense into a unified, relentless, and decisive counterattack? We must ask, how did this psychic certainty of victory influence the strategic calculus of the Great Coalition? This analysis will dissect the profound link between spiritual conviction and the regiment commander's tactical demise. We are studying this as a critical case study in the consequences of operational arrogance against conviction and unity. The expedition began with high confidence. The 7th Cavalry Force was considered the strongest military arm deployed. The regiment commander, driven by celebrity, was renowned for seeking decisive independent victory over the tribes. However, in the days preceding the attack, he gravely misjudged both the enemy's intent and total strength. The regiment commander rejected extra firepower, believing his 300 troopers could defeat any Indian force. This was an objective strategic error, dividing forces before accurately assessing the size and disposition of the enemy. The Great Camp was massive, stretching almost 2 miles, housing thousands of inhabitants and a huge pony herd. Estimates suggested between 1,500 and 2,500 highly determined warriors were present, many armed with repeating rifles. Crucially, the Hunkpapa Holy Man's vision had unified this massive, diverse collection of Lakota and Cheyenne tribes. The vision instilled a powerful collective belief that the Bluecoats were destined not merely to attack, but to die. This spiritual resolve transformed a potentially panicky retreat into a cohesive, aggressive, and superior defensive maneuver. We examined the terrain. The steep bluffs and deep ravines perfectly masked the massive numbers of lurking warriors. The combined warriors, masters of concealment, filed silently into the gullies, invisible to the approaching cavalry. The regiment commander initially hoped to seize women and children as tactical hostages from the lower end of the village. This operational goal mandated a quick, overwhelming strike, as time was critical to prevent the tribes from fleeing. The first engagement, led by the junior major in the valley bottom, met immediate and overwhelming resistance from the camp. The junior major was quickly disoriented after his lead scout was killed, losing confidence and retreating to the bluffs. This chaotic retreat left the remaining companies of the regiment commander's unit strategically exposed and isolated further north. The spiritual certainty fueled the hostile coalition, who sensed the white man's fear and aggressively turned to counterattack. Meanwhile, the regiment commander pushed his isolated battalion along the ridge toward the perceived location of the non-combatants. His final order demanded the stubborn captain bring ammunition quickly, proof that the initial plan had severely failed. The key failure, Benteen was too far away on a futile side mission ordered earlier by the regiment commander. The Great Coalition deployed massed attack groups against the scattered smaller cavalry units in a split engagement. One of the most effective maneuvers involved the Oglala War Chief, flanking the commander's main position unnoticed. By utilizing a narrow defile behind the troopers, the Oglala War Chief successfully attacked them from the rear. The outcome on Battle Ridge was brutal. Soldiers were overwhelmed by sudden intense fire and close-quarter fighting. The rapid pop-pop-pop of the combined warrior rifles meant the fight where the commander fell was short and catastrophic. Not a single trooper survived with the commander. The vision of white men falling like grasshoppers had tragically materialized. The hostile coalition then shifted focus, attempting to annihilate the 400 remaining Bluecoats fortified on the bluffs. The combined troops of the junior major and the stubborn captain established a crucial makeshift barricade above the river. Waiting for the pack train and desperately needed ammunition was perhaps Reno's only sound strategic decision. The stubborn captain showed remarkable leadership, organizing the desperate defense, seemingly oblivious to the rain of enemy fire. If the stubborn captain had rigidly adhered to his valley hunting orders, Few, if any, would have survived the siege. This siege lasted until the great camp struck its tents and moved on, securing the most significant indigenous victory. What if Custer had waited for the promised rendezvous with Colonel Gibbon's infantry column on the 26th? Terry's grand strategy emphasized preventing escape. A unified approach might have compromised the entire hostile camp. The Corps' strategic failure stemmed from poor reconnaissance and an inflexible underestimating command structure. This defeat shocked American opinion, occurring during the centennial of independence, proving victory was not inevitable. The spiritual leader was instantly elevated, gaining notoriety for his supposed Napoleonic tactics and strategy by a shocked press. The vision served as an indispensable strategic force multiplier, turning fragmented tribes into an unyielding war machine. Later, the commander was unfairly scapegoated, accused of rushing due to glory hunting and ignoring Terry's plan. However, Terry's plan was deeply flawed. Coordinated timing across uncharted regions was virtually impossible to guarantee. The underlying driver for this conflict was land-wide expansion into sacred hunting grounds and broken treaty promises. Little Bighorn remains an iconic monument to the struggle of indigenous peoples, defending their vanishing birthright against overwhelming forces. The tactical victory, however, was short-lived, forcing the hostiles to flee and eventually surrender to reservation life. What prevailing strategic misunderstanding led the cavalry to believe that their disciplined charge was invincible against superior numbers. Previous battles demonstrated that disciplined U.S. troops could successfully hold ground against numerically superior Indian forces. The Great Coalition, unlike earlier opponents, was not simply seeking war honors, but fighting desperately for their survival. This difference in motivation entirely changed the tactical calculus from a limited skirmish to a total war of attrition. The Cavalier general failed to adapt to the scale of resistance, a fatal flaw in leadership against an existential enemy. The battle provides timeless lessons: data superiority, understanding enemy morale, and maintaining flexibility in command structure. We conclude with the spiritual leader's end resisting arrest and being fatally shot in November 1890. The tragic aftermath at Wounded Knee 14 years later brought the 7th Cavalry full circle, seeking bloody revenge. This later confrontation highlights the long-term devastating cultural impact of Little Bighorn's symbolic significance. Now we turn to modern analysis tools. How can technology assist our understanding of this complex military failure? AI allows us to model counterfactuals, exploring the battlefield. If the full regiment had remained unified and concentrated, we can simulate how the absence of the spiritual leader's vision might have affected the warrior's immediate tactical response. Technology helps challenge prevailing myths, offering a data-driven objective path to historical precision and deeper knowledge. The power of belief, whether spiritual or strategic, remains the true enduring legacy of the Little Bighorn battle. Understanding this history sharpens our critical thinking, transforming curiosity into applicable strategic wisdom for today.